Hello, I'm going to make a couple of videos to help you have some tips of how to practice some of the sections in Messiah. We're going to start out with Worthy is the Lamb. It's number 53. There's some challenging 16th note patterns in this that we need to look at. All right, so tip number one is figure out what fingering works for you. So you may be most comfortable in first position, but sometimes shifting into second or third position will make it so that you don't have to change strings as much, or allows you to use the same finger pattern as you were using before in a different position. And this helps especially when things are fast and you don't have time to switch strings. So if we look, we're going to go halfway between C and D in Worthy is the Lamb. And we're just going to start looking at that. So you notice you have the pickup and then the second measure, you can see that we need to be up to a D, which is in third position on the E string, about halfway through the measure. And then the next measure starts up there. So there's a couple of ways to do this. Let's just think through the possibilities and then see what will work best for us. So we can start with the pickup in first position. So we can go with a third finger on E. Okay, and then there's where we need to be up in the third position. So we could say, let's shift there. And that's quite a jump from your third finger on A to the fourth finger on E. We could do it, but let's look at other ways. So let's look at the way to shift up in third position on that D on the A string first. So let's keep first position until then. Okay, so that works a little bit better. Let's look at the option to start in third position. So start with the first finger on the E string on your pickup note. Okay, so we could stay in third position the whole time. The only thing is you have to switch strings in there. You're going back and forth between the A and the E string there. So me personally, I like shifting up on that first finger on the D. Okay, so this second measure is another one where we have to think through what we want to do. We go down and we could play in first position for the next little bit, or we could stay in third. So let's look at both of those. So we're going to start halfway through the second measure. Staying in third position doesn't work very well. So we may want to jump down. So this is a good place to jump down to a 2. So there's the idea. I wanted to do that before we get to the tricky part so you can see what the thought is between some of the different things that we're doing. So let's go ahead and look forward a little bit. We get to the 16th note patterns. So let's see what we can do. We've got in that first group the 4th, 16th notes of the first beat. That is a C on your E string. So if we were to play this in first position, that might be difficult. You could stretch your 4, but that's a big stretch, so you need to have big hands. Yeah, then you just have to keep reaching for that over and over again. So let's look at third position. So let's start on your first finger. Okay, that works pretty well. You might try that out and see if you like that. Because that also keeps you up there so you can reach those high notes. One thing that is maybe a con for that one is that you have to go down, you have a jump from the D string to the E string on that. So I'll show you where that is. So that's a jump all the way up there. So another option may be to try second position. So that's starting on your second finger on the E string instead of your 1. So you still have that jump in there. I don't know that we're going to get rid of that because it is a note on your D string. But maybe try that in second position too. So I'll do that again so you can see. So 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 1, 1, or 3, 1, 3. And then I actually shift down here. So go ahead and go through and try different fingerings out to see what you like. See where you would shift up and down to make it so you don't have to jump strings as much, or to make it so you don't have to figure out the different fingerings that don't work for you. All right, so let's see. So that's the first tip of how to choose your fingerings. So the next part of this first tip is to see where you can leave your fingers down so you don't need to move them and you can keep them in the right position to allow you to play. Let's see. So we need to plan where we're going to leave our fingers down. So if we go, we're still at that tricky part where we start the 16th notes. Okay, so look at your second finger on your E string, and I'm going to lead through the second position method. What if you leave your second finger on the E string down? So I'm going to leave that down. Okay, I did have to take it off while I went to the D string, but if you leave it on for that first beat, then you don't have to come back to it. Otherwise and all your fingers are coming off and you have to find them again and get them in tune. So look where you can leave that finger down. Where you leave your finger down, that's going to be a good anchor. That will keep you in the right position so you know where your other fingers are. So that second note, so you're going to notice that that's a whole step, not a half step. So where you are relating to your anchor is important. You know, whether it's a half step, a whole step, or some other interval, and you can keep that in your fingers to know where it is. Okay, so I'm going to leave my second finger down there. Okay, so I kind of leave my second finger down a lot there. I do take it up every once in a while. And then I'm shifting down here. So I'm leaving my first finger down on that second, or when I shift down, I've got my first finger on the A and E strings because it plays a regular one, not a low run one, on those. Okay, and I can leave that one on there, that whole measure, and that kind of keeps me anchored there. So kind of look at where you're going to leave those fingers down. I kind of lifted up my first finger there because it gets so you're playing too many other things that doesn't really help you anymore. Okay, so that third measure of that, my 2 is kind of staying down because I have a high 2 on the E and a high 2 on the A. Make sure that 3 on your D string is really high, not a low 3. That's wrong. Yep, so your 2 is staying down because you're going to come back to that a lot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes of those 8 notes. I guess six of those 8 notes are that 2 that you're leaving down. You will need to lift it up so you can play that 1 underneath it, but that's only one time. So okay, so I'm staying in first position all through that until just where I played, and then I'm going back up in a third position. Okay, and then this is similar stuff. You're going to leave your second finger down there. And then I shift down there. And then I shift back up. I maybe shift more than you might want to, but you may look at what you want to do. It's based on where you need to play. Some of those notes are in third position, some of them are in first, and I try and keep the same pattern in my fingers if I can. But see what works for you. Okay. All right, so that's how leaving down your fingers can help. Try it out. There's a lot of places where this works and makes a difference. See what works and what you can leave down more often. But don't leave them down too much, because that could also screw you up as well. So yeah, if you shouldn't leave it down, don't leave it down. But if you can, it does help you. All right, another part of this number one tip is to make sure you're playing the right notes. So we have accidentals sometimes that catch us off guard, especially when we're doing our tricks of getting up in position. Sometimes we're not familiar as much with those, and we might hear a wrong note and learn it incorrectly. So we think that it's right, but then we get back to symphony and everybody else is playing the other note, and then we realize, oh, we learned this wrong and we think it sounds different. So one of the tips would be, if you have a piano in your house, you can go through and play it on that and see how it sounds and make sure that you're listening to how it should sound. If you don't play a piano or don't have a piano, go ahead and play it in a different position that you're more familiar with, and look at each note and see, oh yeah, that's a G sharp, that's a G natural, or a C sharp or C natural, that's a high 2 or a low 2. And if I were to play it in position, that's a whole step or a half step from this interval. So you can try going through there. Probably in another section, when I'm not focused on Where There's a Lamb, I'll talk about some of those accidental places in some of the other songs. So we can go through those. All right, so I'll send out a copy of this and what fingerings that I use. Go ahead and mark fingerings that work for you. So that's really the first tip. Figure out your fingerings, figure out your intervals, figure out how you can leave your fingers down to help you. And that's the most important thing. Play it as slow as you need. You can go one note at a time just to see what fingerings and what's related to each other. Yep, so play it nice and slow. Don't worry about tempo or anything there. You're really just figuring out what works for your fingers, what makes it as easy as possible. Because when you speed it up, those fingerings are going to make all the difference. All right, we're ready for the second tip, and this is one of my favorites. I learned this when I was taking violin lessons in high school, and we just called it drilling the notes. I was playing Summer by Vivaldi. It had a lot of 16th note passages, and my teacher just taught me how to do this method. It works for when things are jumping around a lot. I guess Summer isn't the best example for that, but it was one that had a lot of those notes. But it works, this method works perfectly for this Worthy is a Lamb section. So what we're going to do, we're going to still start the 1, 2, 3, 4 measures before D, and we're going to pick a tempo in our head. First of all, I guess let's go ahead and just play it slowly through. So I'm going to play between that and D just to kind of teach this method. So I'm just going to go slow and just play it. We already have our fingerings from tip 1. So I'm just going to see where my treble spots are, but just play it slowly. You may play through that and you may notice, hey, on measure 3, that one's tricky. I always, play the wrong finger. I want to go to the wrong note on there. This is what this method will fix, right? So go ahead and play it faster with that, and you can do the same thing to see which parts are trouble spots for you. So I'm going to play a little bit faster than I did and just see how I do. I did pretty good. I've been practicing this, so I'm trying to think of ways to mess up. I should have recorded this before I practiced it. But I'm going to go a little bit faster, and I'm going to turn my brain off a little bit and see if I make mistakes. We'll see. Ready, go. There's a mistake. All right, that first measure. Okay, we'll do it again. Okay, so I made a few mistakes in there. So I can kind of see, the first measure had a little bit. That third measure is always tricky for me as I go fast and I'm thinking about different things. That's where my fingers get jumbled up a little bit. All right, so let's go into how we drill that then. So we're going to go ahead and look at these in groups of beats. So the first beat has the 4 notes, 4/16 notes, second beat, third beat, fourth beat, all the same. They all have 4 notes. So I'm going to stop playing on each of the first of those groups of 4. So I'll show you what I mean by playing it. Okay, so. Okay, and where you have that 8th note, I'm just going to play that double. So I'm just going to play 2 notes, pretend it's 2/16 notes there, so it doesn't screw up my bowing or my stopping. So if I go back to the start of that measure, okay, so you see I stopped on the first beat. All right, so we're going to do that again, and we're now going to stop on the second note of every group now. So okay, I'm going to start that again. I know I'm practicing this for a reason now. And do it again with stopping on the third beat, or the third note of every group. Okay, and then one more time with the 4th note of every group. All right, and then one of the things that I like about this method is now you go back and play at the normal speed, and you'll notice that your fingers do a lot better at going through those places where they were jumbled before. So you'll just go ahead and play it at the right tempo. And I got screwed up because I still played the 2/16 notes on that 8th note. You probably, when you go back to the tempo, you don't want to do those 2 notes still. You want to leave that in just your drilling session and not in your normal play. So try that out and see how that works. Okay, continuing on with that second tip where we start drilling. If you can't play it as fast as I just did, go ahead and slow it down. But you do want to play until you stop on those notes a little bit faster, so you can go slower. Yep, so play it as slow as you need until your fingers can get that every time, and then go ahead and speed up your drilling to go a little bit faster. You want the fast notes to be about as fast as we would be playing it in reality. So but it doesn't do us any good if we're jumbled on that as well, so we want to play it slow enough and get the notes. So you may go back and look at your fingerings, make sure that those are good, and be able to get it up to speed there. All right, the next thing is what I started with, is looking at those treble measures. I know that third measure is a treble measure for me, so instead of playing through all of those measures, I'm just going to drill that one specifically, and I'm going to do it a bunch of times. So I'm going to do my same groupings, but I might play with the first note of every group maybe 2 or 3 times, and I'm just going to focus on that one measure. go to the second note. Third note. Little rocky. And then the fourth note. Okay, and then play it up to speed. Really what you're doing with this method is you're training your fingers to automatically know where to go next. They'll be familiar with it, and then your brain can go on to the next tip that I'll give you in a second. But try that on any 16th note passage. Remember, if you have 8th notes in the middle of there, or even other length of notes, just go ahead and make those all 16th notes and play them separate bows until you get there. One more thing with this method, just to drill it in, and it's changing up the rhythm, changing up the speed that you're getting to those notes, just to train your fingers just to get those patterns, is you can do different rhythms. So you may try something like this. So that may help you just play it and think of it a different way. Train your fingers to jump to the right note. Opposite of that, you can do hooked bowing the other way. Yep, so you can try that. You don't want to get that stuck in your head so that you can't play it right. But that will help you if you played a couple times like that. That will help you train your fingers to jump to the right notes in different, not being stuck in the same, like, I have to play this up to speed and only one way. But always at the end of that practice of changing it up, go ahead and just play it the normal way. I still play that 8th note double. I need to work on not doing that. Yeah, so like I said before, one of the things I like about this method is that you can see the progress just after one practice session. So do this multiple times, get those tricky parts wherever there are tricky 16th note passages, and drill them. All right, the third tip is a little bit harder for me to put together, but I'll try my best to see. It's to listen to your part as part of the whole. Once you've drilled it and you've got the fingerings down and you're not thinking so much as, oh crap, how do I play this? And oh, this is a lot of notes, and am I going to make it all the way through the end? You're able to kind of go above yourself. You're able to focus on the other parts, where you fit in, how you fit in as part of the whole. And your fingerings, your fingers will just know how to do it because you've drilled them, you've done the work and the homework on it, and you can just enjoy. So I'm going to go ahead and play this part. I've got a YouTube video of the Tabernacle Choir singing it. I'll try and send out the link for that. This is around 2 minutes and 10 seconds, and this is the measure before, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's the 7th measure of C, around there, so you'll see that. You'll notice that the choir is kind of louder. Hopefully you can hear your part enough, but you may find it on your own, and rather than through the video, it might be easier to hear. But listen for how our part goes. So we're just going to do that first. Okay, so I just played the part that we've been practicing. It might be a little bit hard to hear. You'll have to see if you can even hear it. It's just background texture. So if we look at the dynamics. It is a forte, so we do want to be heard, but we really want to be crisp and clean and together so it's not muddy. So you kind of know how you fit in, but you can see and hear what the melody is doing and where your beats line up with them, right? So that you can know, oh, I'm playing way slower than they are. I need to be here, or I need to be there, right? So the other thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up my TV and I'm going to play with it. So I don't know how this audio will work with this recording, but we'll see how it goes and see if you can hear it. But this is something that I do. I play along with the recording, and I hear how my part fits into it. So I'm going to stop this and then start it again. All right, so I'm going to hit play. I've got my time marking at about 2:05. I'm going to listen for the part where the sopranos come in, and I'm going to come in with them. I do this on my TV and I just turn it loud. I live alone, so I don't bug anybody, but you may try this with headphones in, or you may have your family listen to loud music for a bit. So, all right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play. This is at 2:05, and then I'll come in with the sopranos. Okay, it got too fun, so I forgot to stop. But you can kind of hear it and you can see, oh, I'm playing with the sopranos now, or I'm playing with the voices and they're doing this, or I'm not with the voices, I'm playing kind of a background texture. But these are the parts that stand out in my part that are in their rests or in their, where they don't sing as loud or at all. So try that, play it with the recording. Also, when you get to rehearsal, if you practiced it hard, listen to those other parts and see where they fit in, so that you can stay with them. And then the last part of this is watch Robert. Make sure that you're staying with the beats. You know where the beats start. You practiced stopping on the beat of every one of them, so know where that starts. You'll also have places where, hey, I know that that part is tricky, but I know that when I get to here, this is when I'm with the other parts, and I can jump to there and start there again. So if I make a mistake, I'm not out for the whole 16th note passage and just have to come in at F or something where we have a rest. So look for places where you can join back in. All right, so that's tip number 3. Have fun practicing this part. All right, welcome back. This is going to still be Worthy as the Lamb, and we're going to talk about the fugue part and some of the accidental sections that we were working on today. So we're going to start at K. You'll notice through here that we have some C naturals that come up. We're used to playing C sharps. So this is a place just to listen carefully. So I'm going to start at K. So that's the part specifically for the first violins that Robert's kind of like, ooh, you guys need to play those accidentals. So watch where it's low and high. You'll notice 1, 2, 3, 3 measures in and 4 measures in, you have the C natural, so that's a low 2. Even that last beat of the fourth measure, that's still low because it's in the same measure. And then because it's tied over to the next, that's still low. Next measure after that, they help us out. They give us a C sharp there. They didn't have to do that, but it does go back up high. The next measure after that, they don't give that away, but that should still be to the key signature, so the C sharp there for all of those. So make sure that those are high. So I'll just play that one more time so you can hear it. Listen for those C's, C natural and C sharp. So watch for that wherever that happens. Let's look at between I and K too, just to make sure we've got those two. So I'm going to play that part. Looks like there's a lot of accidentals in there that we want to look for. I think he mentioned A sharp is one that we want to look for too, and there's some A sharps in there. So listen carefully for that. And if I make any mistakes, feel free to call me out. Send me an email by myself first before you tell everybody else, and then I'll correct it. But I do make mistakes too sometimes, like we talked about in some of my other videos, is sometimes I learn it wrong and I listen for it incorrectly, and then I play that and I don't check it again. So I'm hoping now that I've checked it and I'm playing them all right. All right, so from I to K. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. Yep. So let's just go with those 5 measures before K. Yep, so your A sharp and then your A natural is going to come in. So that one's kind of a hard one. I shift up into third position and I shift up to that A sharp. That may be something that you may not want to do. Like we talked about with fingerings, find something that works good for you there. So you could try to shift up later. So maybe play it all in first position until you get to the B. Yep, and you can just play a scale if you want, just to practice it out and see. You may try and play all 4 and then shift up with the third finger. I don't really like that as much. You could try shifting earlier, maybe in second position. That seems a little awkward. You could start in third position on your A string. That actually might be really good for you, because then you don't have to worry about that shift up to the A sharp. You just want to make sure that 4th finger is really high on your A string. So whatever fingering you use, make sure that you know how it should sound. Make sure you look at the intervals, half step or whole step between them, and that you can get them right in tune. So I may switch my fingering and play it all in third position to start. All right, this is a few tips for the second violins to match what I gave for the first. So feel free to watch the ones that I did for the first violins. I'll try and make these a little bit shorter and not repeat too much, but I wanted to make sure that you guys got some for your part as well. So I'm going to go to the part before D, just 1, 2, 3, 4 measures in Worthy is the Lamb. It's number 53. So we've got some 16th note passages there. So if you remember, the tip 1 is to look at the fingerings and make sure that we've got what we want, what position, what we can hold down, the intervals between the notes, what's half step and whole step, so that when we start drilling them, then we can play the right notes. And then the second tip is to actually drill them. So I'm going to start just playing through those 16th notes before D. I haven't practiced this, so this will probably be better than the first violin video where I'd already practiced. But I'm just going to start playing through and see what fingerings I like to do. So. is not a G sharp. So yeah, don't listen to me. Okay. All right, so we did have some G sharps in the two measures before that, but we don't have them there. So something to watch out for. All right, so I think first position works for me pretty well here. So I'm going to look now for what's going to be left down. So it looks like my second finger on that first measure can be left down, except for the A. I lied. You need to lift it up for that. That one may not be a finger that you leave down. Let me play it again and watch for those actually. So I can leave down the one there because I'm going to play it again a few times. So yeah, my F sharp on the E string, I'm going to leave down there. Okay, and I'm kind of leave my first finger down a lot through this part on my A and E string. I've just got it on both of the strings there. And that's going to help be my anchor like I talked about with the first violins. Okay, and then this is where it needs to switch. And I think I can just play that a low one and then go back up high again. That's going to be my tricky part. Then back up high. Okay, all right, so I think I've got a good fingering. I'm going to go ahead and start drilling it. So we'll do the first of every group, and then the second, third, and fourth. So I'll just play those. All right, so the first note of every group. It's a little bit weird with those. Remember, for the other parts, we said if there's eighth notes, then you just double them up and play them as 16th notes. So I'll do that again with just the first of every group and see how that goes. No G sharp there. That's going to be something that I have to keep in there. All right, so there's the first group. Here's the second of every group. Okay, a little bit tricky in there. Okay, third of every group. It is hard to get those eighth notes in there. And then one more time with the last of every group. Yep, those eighth notes are throwing me off. It's hard to do that. So I maybe suggest don't worry about doing the drilling on those eighth notes. Just skip to where you have 16th notes sections. So you might do the measure before D all the way up and just skip the parts that have the eighth notes, unless you want to keep trying to play them. So I'm going to do one more time with the fourth of every group. And then after you drill it like that, go ahead and play it back to speed with all of the notes. I can tell I didn't record the very first time that I played this, but I played it once before the video and then now, and already I can see a big difference. I hope that that works for you as well. All right, let's continue with the second violins, because this is good to show how this works. Let's go after D. Let's go to the second measure of D. There's some pretty tricky passages there too. So we're just going to start on that second measure of D. And then I'll just play through slowly because I'm looking at fingerings first, and then I'll look at drilling it. Okay, so you're looking at what fingerings you can leave down. So yeah, it looks like your first finger again, so we'll go through and I'll call those out as I see them. Make sure that that's really high. A nice high 3 on your G. So I'm leaving my first finger down there, and I think I can leave it through the next 2 measures for most of it. And that helps provide my anchor. So yep. So you're looking for any notes that you keep coming back to that you don't need to get off for a lower note on that string. So that works pretty well. Okay, I'm going to play it one more time just at that tempo to make sure I like the fingering, and then I'll do a drilling again. I don't really see a place where you need to shift up, but you may find that may help you in some of these passages. All right, so here's this one again. Okay, all right, so we'll do the first of every group. Okay, second of every group. Okay, I think I messed up there, so I'm going to start over, and I'm going to play it a little bit slower so that I make sure I get all the notes. So the tricky part that my brain is trying to figure out on this is when the note repeats and it has the same note twice, or when it doesn't do that in a section. So that might be something that I slow down and kind of get through when I'm working on my fingerings and just getting familiar with the part. All right, but I'm going to play the third group now. Okay, that part there, that measure, I'm going to come back and drill that by itself, but I'm just going to keep going with that measure and then on. Okay, and then one more time all the way through with the fourth of every group. And I'm going to focus on that one measure that I kept messing up on while I was drilling and make sure that I can get that. So I'm just going to play it through once, and then I'll drill one of every group. Okay, not too bad like that. So I isolated that one measure so that I could drill that. And now let's go back and put it all in the hole and see how I do. still a little bit rocky, so I'm going to drill that a little bit more and then come back and play it again. So I'm going to stop the video so you don't have to keep watching me drill it, but I'll come back and play it one more time. All right, so as I was drilling that, I realized that 1, 2, 3, 4th and 5th measure of D are where I was kind of getting messed up. So I isolated the 4th measure after it, but I wanted to do a little bit more. So I was able to drill that a little bit. And it's really just looking at where my fingers are wanting to go and train them to go where they should go instead. Really on that 5th measure, I wanted to go and jump back up to the D instead of how it should go. So I was training my mind and my fingers to do the right way rather than the wrong way that I was hearing as I thought it should be. All right, so I'm just going to play that section through one more time. All right, so that little amount of practice, I think that took me about 10 minutes total to kind of figure out my fingerings, what I wanted to do, drill it a bit, and now I'm playing it a lot better than I did when I started. And I can do that again tomorrow and the next day. It just takes a few minutes to train your fingers. One thing that I would say is make sure that you don't train your fingers wrong. If you play the wrong part over and over and over again, your fingers will learn that way, and it takes a little bit more to retrain them. But drilling is the way to retrain them. So if you've practiced it wrong, go ahead and drill it. Look at those fingerings, look at the correct notes, and get them correct. So have fun practicing. All right, this is another one for the seconds. We're going to work on some of the accidentals between I and K, specifically that E sharp that happens 3 measures before K. So listen carefully for those. So I'm just going to start at I, and we're going to play through. We may look at that bowing a little bit. For the fingering for those those E sharps, if you were to play it how you might think, you might move your first finger, move it back and forth. This is something called half position though, but if you play that F sharp with your second finger, then you don't need to move your finger back and forth. So you're playing your second finger where your first finger, your regular first finger, would usually go. Yeah. So first violins go into second, third position, and all the way up. This is the place where we get in half position, so it helps sometimes. I think we played it in some of our songs in the last concert too. Okay, so I'm going to play that through one more time. All right, a little bit more for intonation. Let's go between F and G for the seconds, and we're just going to play through that. The thing that's getting me is those G sharps and G naturals. My brain wants to play G sharps all the way through, but I really want to watch where those are. So yeah, so let's start where you guys come in between F and G. rhythm was throwing me off a little bit. I'm used to the first violin part there, but hopefully that helped with intonation and listening to what those notes should be. One thing to say, if you guys catch anything that I did wrong, if I miss a note, sometimes my brain thinks it should be something else. Call me out on it and I'll fix it. But yeah, I think I got them all correct. So.